Carolina has always had a rich musical heritage, and we're proud to be a part of such a great treasure.
Join Brooke and I as we talk to some of our favorite musicians, some good friends from our home state of North Carolina. Hear their story and see how bluegrass music has shaped their lives and their career. Hello, once again, everybody, and welcome to the Carolina Sessions here with Darin and Brooke. That's us, ain't it?
That's us.
With our special guest, Steve Dilling. Good morning, buddy. How you doing?
Hi.
I'm doing well. Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here with us. We've been looking forward to this interview for a while now.
We sure have, setting it up. And you got my good Sundrop shirt on there. So.
Yes, sir. You can't go wrong with that.
Nope.
You've been known to give me a cold sun drop or two over the years.
Yes, we have. I'll tell you a little history, folks, on me and Steve. When he was with Third Time Out and I was with the gentleman, we'd be far off somewhere, and we played a lot of the same festivals together. And I remember we was way up maybe in Wisconsin or somewhere out there, and Steve hit me on the way in to the bus, and we was heading to the stage. He said, "Son, I left you a sun drop sitting right on the back steps of the stage."
Yeah. That's when you know you got. That's when you know your buddies right there.
That's right. That's right. We did that past a few back and forth a couple times there.
I got a friend of mine, or he's a big fan of Sideline, and he's in Michigan, and he sent us all some Michigan maple syrup here just about a month ago.
Nice.
And I wrote him back thanking him, and I said, "Listen," I said, "do you drink soda?" And he wrote back, "Yeah." And I said, "Do you drink diet or regular? I got something I want to send you." So I'm going to send him some sun drop up there.
Yes, sir.
He's going to like that.
Yeah.
First energy drink, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Of course, I grew up, up here in Raleigh. My parents and all my family, grandparents and all were down in Gastonia, And so when we went down there probably once a month, growing up. And you could always get sun drop and cheer wine down there, but you couldn't get it up in Raleigh back then. And I guess it was probably in the 80s before you started seeing it around here.
Right.
Of course, it's all everywhere now, but it was a big deal to go down there and get a sun drop now.
Yeah, right where it come from there in Gastonia, sure enough.
Yeah.
So you grew up there in Cary or Raleigh area your whole life?
Yeah, we moved up here in 1967 to it was a little town then called Morrisville. And I don't know if you guys have ever been or flown out of the Raleigh airport up here.
We have.
But Morrisville's right there next to the airport. And it was just a little small place. And then we moved over to Cary, I think in 1969. Of course, I was just, I was like 4 years old then. But we moved to Cary, just, outside of Raleigh. And it was like 1,200 people. And back then, and it's probably, well over 100,000 people there now.
Yeah.
In Cary, and of course this whole Raleigh area. But yeah, we've been up here since then. All our families down that way, but we came up here. Dad had a job opportunity, and that's what moved us up here. And I think they probably had intentions of moving back to Gaston County, but we never did. And this has been home.
Right. Who did you grow up picking with up there around the Raleigh area, man? And some important.
Well, I know you guys probably know John Wade, a bass player.
Oh yeah.
John, I was in junior high school, and just from time to time, I would take my banjo to school for whatever reason, or a teacher they all knew I played and was learning. And I guess I was in ninth grade. Or maybe eighth grade, I don't remember. It was junior high then, it wasn't middle school. And John came up, I was sitting on a picnic table, me and some buddies, and I had my banjo out, and John come up and introduced himself, and he said, "Do you need a bass player?" And I said, "Well, do you play bluegrass?" And he said, "Yeah." And so we hit it off and started picking together. And his dad played fiddle, Buck Wade. And then I met great dobro player Kim Gardner.
Mm-hmm.
He was living here. He lives in Nashville now, but he was living down here in Benson, North Carolina. And then I got introduced to a guy named Wes Tuttle, which I know you know Wes. He was going to school at NC State. And we all just started picking together. We had a little band called Stony Run, and we played, how local pig pickings and parties. And back then there was a few clubs around Raleigh that had bluegrass. We picked there. It was one cool place. It's called Cafe Deja Vu, and it's actually underground. You went down almost like in a tunnel, and there was I forgot the name of the whole place, but there were 4 or 5 like clubs, nightclubs or bars or whatever. Cameron Underground, I believe, is what it's called, and we used to play over there about once a month. I wasn't even old enough to. Me and John weren't old enough to be in those places, but we were playing back then. So yeah, that was cool. Just meeting John, and we went through junior high and high school together playing. Anytime they had any kind of school function, they would always ask me and John to come play at it. And all our friends didn't necessarily like bluegrass, but they just loved us, and hooped and hollered, and
right.
I guess sort of made fun of us, hee-haw, that type of stuff.
Who showed you probably the first couple things on the banjo?
Well, I got my banjo when I was 12. It was my 12th birthday. And my dad had an electrician named Richard Wise that worked for him that had a local band here in the Raleigh area. And we used to go see them. We probably went and watched them rehearse more than we watched them play live. They would have practice sessions like, once a week or whatever at Richard's house. And that banjo just tore my nerves up. I guess I was about 10 then. And so he got me one when I was 12, and Richard probably showed me my first thing from even like how to wear picks and, a few rolls. And then I started taking lessons from a guy here in Raleigh named John Morris, who he passed away a few years ago, but he was a mandolin player that knew a little bit of banjo, and he got me started.
Yeah.
But you know how it is when you're young like that. I couldn't imagine learning to play, trying to learn now with all the responsibilities you have as, owning a home, and I'm a grandparent and parent, but back then all I did was play ball and play banjo. So I was able to put a lot more time into it. John got me started, but then I started hearing people like Terry Balcom, Quick Doyle and Quicksilver formed in '79. So I'd been playing a couple years, and I was so fortunate they played in North Carolina a lot. So I used to go see Terry a lot, and he was a huge influence, and being able to see him live was probably a big help as anything for me.
Where'd you get to see those guys most of the time at?
Well, you guys know how it is here in North Carolina, especially back in the late '70s and '80s. You could from about May to September, you could drive 2 hours and be at a bluegrass festival somewhere. And it seemed like they played a lot of festivals in North Carolina. They started the Denton Festival in '81. But I guess the best place, they played there about twice a year, and they would play 2 nights, was a place in Greensboro, North Carolina called Fiddler's Cove, which was a great bluegrass venue back then. I mean, they had all the big name bands came there and played. And it wasn't a huge place. I bet it didn't hold 100 people. And it was a bar and music venue. But Doyle would come there and play at least twice a year, a Friday and Saturday night, and sell it out. And man, we used to go down there, and I'd be on the front row, just taking it all in.
Most of it, yeah.
And that was always the original band. I never saw, even after Lou left, when Randy Graham came in, I never saw them play there again. Yeah. It was always the original band. I got I got some live, they were tapes back then, but got them converted to CDs and a lot of those shows, bootleg stuff.
Oh, yeah. Good bootleg. We learned many a thing off of bootleg tape.
Boy, I'm telling you. We didn't have all this. Just go look up on YouTube and all that back then. Macy got me a turntable for Father's Day, because I still have all my old album collection,
Yeah.
And a lot of that's went to CDs, but there's so much of it that hasn't. And I was in there moving that needle. Listen, that brought back so many memories. Because when you were trying to learn a lick or a solo or whatever, you had to run that needle back,
Right.
or if you had the good turntable, you could slow it down. But you had to tune your banjo down, you know, to match it. So,
Yeah,
boy, things have come a long way.
they sure have.
Yeah, now it's all an app on your phone, you know.
Right.
Yeah, it's so convenient, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
Tell us about your time with the Bass Mountain Boys.
Well, I went to work with them. I guess it was in 1985. I was playing with a band called Summer Wages from Mount Airy, North
Right.
Carolina.
Was that probably
Barry
your
Barrier.
first professional gig, maybe?
It was. I went with them right after I got out of high school in '84, and was playing with those guys, and we played quite a bit, but it wasn't enough really. I needed to, get a job or do something, but they played almost too much to try to get a job. And at that
Right.
time, I was trying to figure out if I wanted to go to college or what, And Bass Mountain Boys called me about filling in on a show, and I went and filled in with them. First time I'd ever been on a tour bus. I mean, I'd been on, Trailways bus or something, but a tour bus to go somewhere. And man, it just blew me away, and had a good time. And when I saw their schedule, and I knew it was the thing I needed to do. And so I went with them in 1985, and wow, just what a good time. Super guys. They hosted the Bass Mountain Festival back then, which was twice a year then. It was Memorial Day weekend and Labor Day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And Bass Mountain Boys was always considered, the music was a part-time thing. Everybody had jobs, and I was able to get a job and fortunate enough to get off. But we played as much as any full-time band throughout the summer. I mean, we played from starting about April all the way through October, just about every weekend. And it just kind of, I think that paved the way for me to move up through my career, or whatever you want to call it, because I met a lot of other artists. That's where I met, Russell Moore and all those guys when they were playing with Doyle. Got to get to, know a lot of people. Charlie Waller was a good friend of John Manus and them. That's how I got to know Charlie, and Emily. That's how I got to know you through all that. So it was almost like a great networking tool, I guess you would say.
Yeah, the Bass Mountain Boys is very entertaining.
We always said we couldn't pick or sing, but we had a good time, and we had a good show worked up. It was just real. What you saw with those guys was real. There was nothing put on. I mean, everything was spontaneous. It was, I think, because the fact everybody had a job, you weren't necessarily playing music for a living. You were playing for the fun of it, and if you could put a few coins in your pocket, that was good too.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things that made it.
Tell the folks who was in the band.
Well, back then, the original members were John Manus, who passed away several years ago, and Mike Wilson were the two original members. And then Johnny Ridge was on fiddle, and Mike Aldridge on mandolin, and myself on banjo. Now, are you and Mike kin to each other?
Yes, we are some distant kin, sure enough.
Well, I knew he had some kin folks down your way. I know Anthony Scruggs down there is kin to him some way as well. So, yeah. You Aldridges in your mandolin, man. Y'all are hard to beat.
He says I'm the long toe Aldridges and his is short toe Aldridge.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah,
But what a good time.
So.
Good time with those guys, man. They were so much fun, and when I had a chance to move on and actually go to making music as a career, which I made that decision. That was a hard job to walk away from, to leave those guys.
Right. Where did you?
And of course, we still get together and play about once a year. A reunion show. The last several years, we've done one every year, at the Thanksgiving Festival down at Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, we've saw several of those, and glad you guys still get together and do that.
Mm-hmm.
How long were you with the Bass Mountain Boys?
I was there. I left I was started in '85, and then I left in '92, and I went with a short stint with the Lonesome River Band. And that was my chance to really start making music as a career. And the River Band had some success going at carrying the Tradition record had come out, and Sammy had left, and I came in. But here again, it was one of those points where Macy and I she just had a baby. Stephanie was a little girl, and we weren't playing enough to make a living, but we were playing too much for me to get a job.
Right.
So I needed to get a job, and with a daughter and having a family then was what I needed to do. And so and Sammy at that time, the deal he had going Nashville wasn't going the way he wanted to do. So it was perfect time for me to step out and Sammy to come back in. And so it worked out good for everybody.
Right.
And I went to work of all things. I got a real good job selling life insurance. Or I went to school, got my license, and there was a company over here called Durham Life. And, everything was going good. You know me, man, I can talk to anybody, and it was going really well. And then we got bought out by another company, and it was me and 3 other people lost our job simply because it was a case of last hired, first fired, because they had too many agents. And I'll never forget, man, God stepped in only as he can at this point. I found that news out on Friday that I was going to lose my job. I had a severance, that I could work on. I wasn't just immediately fired. But that was on a Friday. And it was either Monday or Tuesday the next week, Ray Deaton called me about the third time out job.
Wow.
And so the good Lord was looking after me. And that was in 1993. So he told me that they were going to be making a change. Wasn't sure when, but if I was interested, and I said, well, sure. Well, in the meantime, I had went back with the Bass Mountain Boys after I left Lonesome River Band. I went back with the Bass Mountain Boys and working and selling insurance, but they knew I wanted to play for a living. And so when I told them I was going to, went down to try it out third time out a few months later, and they supported me in that and leaving again. And they said, you leave this time, you'll probably never come back. I said, okay. But they stood behind me, and they knew that's what I wanted to do. So that was good to have that support from them. And
well, you fit third time out like a glove, man. I thought you was there a good long while, maybe 10 years, 12 years?
No, I was there. Let's see, I went in July of '93, and I left in Thanksgiving Day of 2013. So almost 20 and a half years.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
If you count the half. Yeah.
I
That was
a while, man. You fit them perfect. I thought, and that's where I first met you, probably in 94, 95. Well, I went to rock school up here in Valdez and heard you pick, and I'd been picking locally around here at some different places, and a good friend of both of ours, Ralph Gibson, was up there.
Yeah. Oh, Ralph.
And I remember him really hollering at you that night and calling you out. Ralph was pretty bad health at that time in a wheelchair, and you talked a lot to him from the stage, and it just showed your perfect and great personality that night. And we became friends instantly. And man, you're just a great addition to that band. You and Russell and all the guys had good chemistry, and it was just, we're better off in the bluegrass world that y'all had that great band.
Well, I appreciate that. That was a great move for me, and not only just for like you said, just the fun aspect of it. I learned so much musically from not only Russell but Ray too, and Mike Hartgrove as well. They were the 3 founding members that were left the third time out, and I just thought I knew how to sing till I went with those guys and learned so many things. And we were definitely a vocal band. We would have rehearsals, and I never had things like this. We would go down and rehearse for 4 days, and I wouldn't even get my banjo out.
Yeah.
We would sit there literally for 8-10 hours a day and just sing with a guitar and a mandolin. And those guys were just so much about that. And it, at the time, I didn't realize how much that was going to benefit me. Now having my own band, I'm able to take a lot of those lessons that I learned from those guys and share with these guys that I'm playing with now. But
Yeah.
that was a great job. It was fun, here again, a hard job. I cried on stage my last show with them. It was so emotional, but when I made the decision to leave the band, which it shocked so many people, I was just burnt out. I was ready to slow down a little bit. Plus, my health wasn't that good. I had was diagnosed with diverticulitis several years prior to that, but it kept getting worse, and it would hit me on the road, and I'd have to go play and just be in so much pain, and then just go back, get in the bus and lay down. And that's not me. I like to be wandering around and talking. And so anyway, I wound up and had surgery, a couple different colon surgeries, and got over all that. But the third time out deal was, and it was because Terry, I mentioned Terry Balcom was such a huge influence. And he was the founding banjo player in that band. And then Barry Abernathy was there for a short while. But I was playing that Balcom style, so it was a perfect fit for me to fall into that position.
Sure.
It sure was, man. How many vocal and awards did Third Time Out win while you were part of the band?
Well, we won Vocal Group of the Year from IBMA 7 years straight, which was really weird because back then, when the IBMA awards came out, the Nashville Bluegrass Band won the first 4 vocal group. And then we won the next 7, and then I think Doyle won the next 7. So it was just like almost passing the torch to the next band. But we won that. We won the Spigma. I'd have to look back. I don't have a trophy for each Spigma award. The IBMA, now I guess we had to pay for a few last year, but back then they used to give everybody an award.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we've done one Spigma vocal group. It's 8 or 9 times, I think. I'd have to look back at their website or something to figure that out. But over and all, I know with the whole time I was with Third Time Out, just various industry awards in those 20 years, it was over 50 awards that I had gotten through them.
Right. I knew it.
Various, not just, but, various different Bluegrass Now magazine, which is defunct now, but they had a couple of award shows back, Fans Choice, and we won several of those, and I got nice trophies, from that. So yeah, that was a neat experience.
It was a great band, man. Sure enough.
Thanks.
Tell me about the banjos you have.
Say it again.
Tell me about the banjos you have and what you've recorded with over the years and some of your favorite instruments like that.
Well, I got a few old Gibson pre-war banjos that I know you knew him well, Snuffy Smith, who was here in North Carolina and worked on so many instruments, but as he liked to refer his card, he was an expert on the banjo.
Always card set, wasn't
it? Yeah. And he helped so many of us back then, younger banjo players, especially here in North Carolina, paved the way to help get those pre-war instruments. Myself, Greg Corbett, I know got a few off of him. Jim Mills at the time. I think Snuffy helped Jim Mills get started in his business. So he was so instrumental in that. And then I had got a 1938, it was a TB-75 that had been converted from Snuffy, and played that and recorded many albums the third time out with that banjo. A couple of those live records we did. And then not long after that, I acquired a 1934 Gibson Granada, which I still have and play quite a bit today. And I've recorded all the Sideline projects with it. And then probably the last four Third Time Out records I did. It's really cool. The last record I did with Third Time Out was a Cracker Barrel recording. Cracker Barrel did a series with different bands, and that was the last. And the CD, the actual CD itself, is my old Granada, the banjo. It's all the gold on it, and like the head of it, and or basically the pot of the banjo is the CD, and so it's really cool to have that and look at and know that's my banjo. But then I got in with a guy who'd been a friend of mine for years. I'd endorsed different banjos over the years from different builders, and Yaroslav Pruka, who is from Prague, Czech Republic.
Right.
I always saw him at IBMA, and was go to his booth and visit and play his banjos. So one year, I guess it was here in Raleigh, after IBMA had moved here, I was down at his booth, and he said, "Are you endorsing for anybody right now?" And I said, "No." I said, "I'm just playing, my stuff." And he said, "Well, I'd love to build you a banjo and you play it." He said, "I've always wanted to." And I said, "Well, why haven't you asked me before now?" And we laughed about it. Anyway, he built me a signature model gold banjo, like a Granada, but Granada's a maple, and this banjo's mahogany, so it has a little bit of a different sound. A great banjo. And then he built me a nickel plate model, and now I've had the last couple of years and been playing it quite a bit on stage. One of the lightweight, it doesn't have a tone ring in it.
Oh yeah.
And I can't get over how that banjo sounds not to have a tone ring in it. But they're all Prukas, and then he's built us a mandolin as well that we use in the band. He's a great builder, and just what a super person.
We've met him.
He's a friend to so many people.
Yeah, we've been to Prague. We went 2 years ago over there, and it's just he was a great guy, good builder. I know a lot of folks have got Pruka banjos now.
Yeah.
Andrew sounds great, records great.
Well, he's over the years, I didn't realize this till talking to him. He has built a lot of parts for other builders.
Right.
They have their banjo with their name on, but a lot of them are Pruka parts as well. So he's been very instrumental in the banjo world the last 15 years or so.
Well, how long have you had Sideline together? I know kind of how that started a little bit was Third Time Out always took the month of December off.
Right.
And y'all would have a show down there around Raleigh, because you'd asked me to come down there one time to jam, and I couldn't do it for some reason. I couldn't. But you'd get together a bunch of folks like that and pick and put on a show every December. And that just kind of, I guess, how you kind of formed that band, wasn't it?
That's it, exactly. Living here and growing up here, like talking about, I have so many friends that I'm still in touch with that, that aren't necessarily bluegrass fans, that they go to festivals and whatnot. And they were like, "Well, let me know when you play locally." So that's why I started doing that. And I would just get together because everybody was off work, and everybody can always use a little extra Christmas money,
That's right.
So I I can't remember the name of the place now, Tirnanog Irish Pub, which
Right.
I don't know if it's still over there or not now, but Lorraine Jordan was doing a lot of bluegrass shows over there, and I would always book a couple nights and just get a group of friends, whoever was available, to come up and come here to the house maybe that afternoon and run through a few and go over there and play, and that's how the whole thing got started. Back then it was just like Steve Dilling and friends.
Right.
So Darrell Webb was picking a lot with me back then, and we booked John Manus called me and wanted us to come play Little John's. And I said, "Well, we really don't have a name." So I called Darrell and I said, "Look, I just booked us on the Bluegrass Festival. We need to get some guys to pick, and we need a name." And he said, "What about Sideline?" He said, "It's a side gig." I said, "All right." So I called John back, and he put Sideline on the flyer, and we got together and took a picture and sent it to him. And that's basically how it got started. I was still playing with Russell. Skip was still, his family was playing. Jason was still with Mountain Heart. Justin Haynes was actually playing fiddle. He was with Third Time Out at the time. And so that's how it all started. And we played a show, and we decided we wanted to record something to have to sell. So we cut that first CD down at Greg Luck's place, and that was going to be it. That was all we were going to ever have, and after I got sick and left Russell and things just happened the way it did, we were playing probably 8 or 10 times a year at the time. And I told my wife, I said, boy, I sure miss playing. And she was like, well, if you want to do it, right now's your chance. So I talked to Skip and Jason, and we decided to hit it full time and go for it. So that's how it all started.
Well, I know you've got a great band together now, and I'm going to let you tell everybody who all's in the band now, but it's been a successful band.
It has. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, you put a successful band together, and we've worked with you many times.
Mm-hmm. So much energy.
And yeah, good energy, good song selection. You're on Mountain Homes label. And just
Mm-hmm.
like you said a while ago, everything you've learned down through the years, you've brought together and to teach those younger guys. Now that me and you've got a little bit older, we're teaching
Yeah.
what
It's
we've
really,
learned as we come along.
well, it's really weird. After we got playing a couple years and we started booking a lot of shows, I told Jason and Skip, I said, look, I'm a lot older than both of you guys. And I said, I can't run like this in a van. I just can't, my health, I just can't do it, And I said, what do y'all think about trying to find a bus if we can afford it? So anyway, we did. We bought a bus and started going. But it reminded me of those early third time out years when we had first got a bus, or they already had one. But man, it was trying to keep it running and going. And it was the same thing with us. It was nickel and diming us to death. It was survival mode, and it reminded me so much of those early third time out years when Ray and Russell and Mike were doing that, and I was a young guy, just big-eyed, taking it all in. And that's the way these guys have been, and finally we got her piece together where she runs pretty good, and and then we got the sponsorship and all that stuff has helped. But
Right.
It's been really, it's been fun, it's been successful, but it's been challenging. Last year 2019 was, and I don't mean to jump ahead, but was the best year we ever had as far as work and money. We won that award at IBMA, but yet it was the most challenging year as well, because from September to December, we lost half our band for different reasons. 3 guys left and had to replace them. And then, that's hard. You guys know, you lose somebody, it takes you back 6 months or whatever to try to get regroup. Right. And fortunately, we've been able to, the times we've lost people for whatever reason, we've been able to replace them and step up and, keep the energy going and whatnot. So sure, I've been blessed with that.
About your great band Sideline and this recording and the awards that you've won here this past year at IBMA. I know we was sitting right in front of y'all at the award show, and that was a good time. I was so happy for y'all. Well,
thanks. That was a huge honor for us to win that Song of the Year. That was the first award Sideline has won. That's I think that's 10 or 11 awards I'd won, but something's about this award with Sideline, I guess, because being there from day one and all the hard work, I wouldn't say it was any better than any of the others, but it may have been just a little more special, I guess. But it's kind of funny. We weren't there, but our wives and my daughter and I were sitting around in front or behind you guys, and they posted an award. Ty Gilpin and Tim Surratt went up and got our award. And Brooke, I don't know if you remember this or not, they got your award and took a picture of it.
Yeah. I remember.
And posted its Song of the Year, because I told her we were in Kentucky, and I said, take a picture of that and put that on Facebook. Yeah. And I never even noticed it. And I said something about it. She said, well, that was Brooke Aldridge's award.
I didn't mind.
Yeah, well,
I was excited.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's family right there, ain't it, man?
Yeah, that's right. We all got to help each other, don't we?
Right.
But that was a huge honor for us. Thunder Dan was a big song for us, and it's really weird how that song took off because of the lyrics in there. It tells a bad story. Thunder Dan was a mean guy, but it was cool to take that home. I wish we could have been there. it was weird that the way that whole deal fell, the single came out, but I guess the actual release of the song made it go. We thought it would have been eligible in 2018. And so we didn't think we were going to really be nominated for anything. And we took a gig, and sure enough, the nominations came out, and we did. But I guess it worked out okay.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
We was so happy for you. And how
I
long
appreciate it.
Sideline together by last year?
We officially, I guess, became official in 2013. So we call it December, basically, because I guess we played a show down here at Lorraine's Coffee House in December, and so we just kind of went with that date around the first part of December 2013.
Yeah.
So what is that? I guess going on 7 years now.
7 years.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah. It takes some time, this day and time, to kind of get going. Like you're saying, I mean, you did some Sideline shows or Steve Dilling and Friends shows for a little while before y'all started, but I remember riding around with Cowan as much shows as we've been doing with him, and he's talking about Brooke and I's career and the success that we've started having in the last couple of years too. And he said, yeah, Newgrass was the same way. It seems like it takes you almost a decade to kind of really get going good, and then you're an overnight success, to everybody.
That's right. That's crazy because I remember seeing those guys in the 70s or maybe early 80s with Courtney Johnson, that band, Curtis Birch and John and Sam. But, what was it, mid-80s before everybody really took on and
really knew
more or less accepted them or whatever. I was a huge fan from day one, but you're right. I mean, you guys been doing this a long time, and now you're achieving a lot of success and all that. And it's weird, just like yourself, Darin. You were with the Country Gentlemen, one of the all-time great bands in the history of our music. But when you start over, it don't matter what you've done. You're starting over. And like for us, with myself and Skip, all the accolades that Cherry Holmes received, and then Jason from Mountain Heart, they had a lot of great years there. And so we were able to capitalize on that when we started the band, but still, man, you're starting back at the bottom.
Sure thing.
We were just fortunate to have a few names to make contacts as far as getting gigs and things like that.
Y'all definitely.
Here again, a repeat of what Third Time Out did. It was the same thing.
Yeah. You guys, you and Jason, I know, and the rest of the Skip too, y'all worked very hard and continue to do so. And we're happy to see it's paid off for you, man.
Well, thanks. We're trying, man. We do work hard. I'm more proud of that than anything. And I've known how much work this business takes, but I guess I didn't realize exactly how much till I went on my own. Mm-hmm. Nothing's given to you out there. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you had a great family, man, to back up just a little bit, that has been huge support, I know, to you, but they've been supporters to everybody, man. I love your mom and dad.
Yeah.
Festivals, seen them, and I mean, I knew I could call your mama right now and she'd come get me if I needed her to.
You would, yeah.
She is just so awesome. Your dad too, and they've been great people to grow up with, I know, and they just take you everywhere to play. And I remember you seeing them at Denton and Bass Mountain and down at Jennings Chestnut Festival down there at Conway, and they just always backstage helping and anything they could do to make it better for the musicians, and that's what your family's done. Yeah,
I'm so blessed to have parents like that. They and back in the I hate to call it the 80s, the old days. I was with Randy Graham last night, and somebody said somebody said something about the old days in the 70s, and he and I just looked at each other, But back in those days, my parents I was fortunate to grow up with, they always had RVs to go to festivals and whatnot, and it was just a way of life. And then Mama volunteered at so many festivals. My dad always says she volunteers and you just get me with her, but my mother got a big kick out of that. And always, if she could help out, and if it wasn't nothing but a glass of tea or a drink of water, she was always there. And musicians that became friends knew they could depend on her to be there to help out and whatever.
Yeah.
I remember back, not to name drop, but it was just a funny story back in the late 80s in Denton, when my mom worked backstage. Well, they always had a parking space for their motor home right behind the stage, where that trailer's at now. This is before that was there. And Tony Rice used to come and stay in my parents' RV just to hide out, because he couldn't stand around and talk like the rest, like we do, you know. I mean, he'd get just mobbed. And people used to come and peek in the window trying to get a look at him. It was the craziest thing, you know, just seeing that, you know. And there I was, you know, I guess in my late teens, being around that was really cool to see that. But it's crazy, man. People jumping up and down trying to look in the windows just to get a glimpse of Tony.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of memories with my folks there, man. And they're still hard. They slowed down a whole lot. They don't go as much as they used to, but they're still there to help out in any way.
Yeah. They're great folks, man. And speaking of Tony, you got to play a lot of shows with Tony there, I guess.
I did. It's really weird. I was thinking about that last night. I'd run across a jacket back in 1983. The Bluegrass Album Band, did the only tour. I think it was a 12-day tour, and I got to go on that. I was a senior in high school, and my dad went up to the principal's office and, you know, got me excused absent. Milton Harkey put that tour on. So I got to know Tony and JD, and I already knew Doyle, but got to know all those guys then, and I actually got to play some with them back then, which is really cool. But yeah, getting to play with Tony was always an honor, especially after he got to playing a lot on the East Coast with the Tony Rice unit. And man, just standing there, and it's weird. It was always cool for me because he always wanted the banjo next to him, so I always got to stand next to him and just listen to that guitar. And you know, Tony's one of these guys. He's all of our heroes. I mean, we don't have to play guitar for him to be a hero of ours and an influence. I once heard Alison Krauss say he was the most influential person musically on her over anybody. And I think all of us can probably say that.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, I've been very blessed to do that. And I texted with him the other night. It was his birthday, and sent him a text message and texted back and forth. It's unfortunate he's not out a whole lot these days. I miss seeing him around.
Yeah. I remember a couple times when we traveled together, you got to do a few of the Quicksilver reunions with Russell and Ray. I remember you.
I did.
Practicing all stuff for the next day. We was backstage at one of the buses. We was there for 2 days at the festival, and I was listening to you go over all that stuff.
It was really cool they had scheduled several of those, and for whatever reason, neither Scott Vestal or Jim Mills could make a few of them. They were the two banjo players of that era of Doyle's bands.
Yeah.
And so I got to step in, and I, you know, obviously I knew all the material because, you know, that was part of what we listened to back in those days. And to get to sing in those quartets with them, it was a huge honor. It was fun. I used to have a live show of one of those. I had it on cassette. And I don't know what ever happened to it. That was the only one I ever had. But what an honor. You know, Doyle's, he's like Tony. He's been such an influence on all of us. I dare say, I think Doyle was one of the guys that changed the game for all of us in the early 80s of music. He kind of took what Boone Creek started and, you know, carried it on. So
yeah,
what an honor to get to do that with him.
And I got to see you do it. So I was great.
You were one of the people there. Or that probably Poppy Mountain or somewhere.
I think it was, and maybe in Ohio somewhere at a festival.
Yeah.
I don't remember. We had so many those several years together with Third Time Out when I was with Charlie and the Country Gentlemen. It was we had a lot of good times. I remember
We sure did.
bus
We
break
sure
all
did.
the time, and we was played the same, you know, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, whether it be the same festival those 3 days, and we was together, and we got on this road with y'all the rest of the weekend.
Well, I think Ray may have been booking Charlie then.
Yeah, he sure
He
was.
was able to do that a lot. Yeah. That was cool.
All the time.
Yeah, you're so fortunate to get to sing with Charlie. I mean, I remember the first time I ever saw Charlie was playing in the same building that the award show's held in now. Back in the mid-late 70s, they used to have a concert there probably about 4 times a year. And they were different artists. Always the Lewis family, Osborne Brothers, Country Gentlemen, Lester Flatt. I saw him there. And I remember Charlie walked out and he was dragging his guitar strap behind him. He didn't even have it. He was holding his guitar by the neck and walking like that. And we never had seen him. And we were like, well, I don't know about the award-winning Country Gentlemen, And, man, they kicked off, I think James Bailey was playing banjo and Dole, and they kicked off in the Matterhorn. And my dad leaned over to me and said, yeah, he can sing. So that was a neat thing seeing that. And then after getting to know Charlie all those years, wow, that was awesome.
Yeah, I was very lucky to get to do that for 6 or 7 years and play with Corbett and Ronnie Day.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Mike Street was part of the band, and Les. And Billy.
That's right.
Last little part, but we had a wonderful time those years.
Just getting to sing with him and stand next to him, man, that had to be awesome.
Yeah, it was very fun. And Corbett was a great harmony singer, and we just had a good blend there with Charlie. It was a good time.
We were listening to, when I was with Randy, I was up at Lorraine's last night helping them with a couple things, and they had a live video of you guys singing He Will Set Your Fields on Fire. And they were like, they couldn't get over Charlie singing the low line in that.
Yeah.
I said, Charlie actually sang a lot of bass if you listen to a lot of those recordings.
Yeah, sure enough. He loves
Yeah.
We do a lot of singing like that on the bus or something, riding around. He loved to sing gospel quartet stuff.
Man, don't you wish you'd had these phones to record that kind of stuff back then?
Yeah. Yeah, we had them big phones, man. We just carry with us, and then just going around them bluegrass festivals trying to get a signal to call.
Yeah. I remember we had a phone Russ was mounted on the bus, and that thing looked like a home phone. And I remember the whole band used it. And one of the first long trips, we went out for about 25 or 26 days. And when Ray got the cell phone bill back, it was all like $1,300 or something. It was crazy back then. But that's all we had to use.
Yeah, that's right.
That or the old phone cards in the phone booth.
Technology has come a long way, and we're fortunate to get to do these here that people can watch and learn a lot of different history from. But one more question, and we'll let you go today. But it's just about North Carolina itself and the musicians it's put out. You've been a big part of that over the last several decades, man. What would you have to say about North Carolina and the style that it's got and the musicians that it's put out?
Well, we're all here again, just blessed to be here and be around it. For so many years, there's been so many music festivals and concerts that could plan to attend, or fortunately, if we were able to perform at them and get to know these musicians. Like I had talked earlier about the original Quicksilver and being such an influence. And those 3 band members with Doyle were all from North Carolina. And they just passed down a legacy to all of us to carry on. There's always been this aura about North Carolina banjo players.
Right.
And I didn't really understand that. And then after I got to thinking about it, and we're just fortunate to be from out here, and all the musicians that this state has put out that now are professional in our genre of music. It's just amazing. And I don't know, it must be something in the water around here. I don't know.
Sun drop.
Yes, sun drop. That's right. Yeah, I had thought of that.
Holy.
Yeah, but just truly blessed, and we've all get to become friends and see each other. Like you and I have had discussions away from music about sports and things like that, and
about finding Right.
What's that?
About finding a good wife.
There you go, Brooke. Yep. Yep. Hey, every good musician needs a good wife, a good male musician. I've been forcing Macy. Me and Macy be married 35 years
Wow.
later on this year, and you know, man, what would I ever do without her?
Yeah.
You know, she sticks beside me and behind me, and just supports me so much. And you know, you're talking about family earlier. Her and both my kids. You know, I'm just couldn't do it without any of them. Their support. You know, my son. I was talking to him a couple weeks ago about, you know, wishing we could have done this, that, maybe went to a few ball games, things like that, more than we did. And he just looked at me and said, I don't know, Dad, it's been a pretty good life. So that's gratifying.
You've been blessed for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us here again today. And I know a lot of people's going to enjoy hearing all the good comments and the conversation we've had. And you're a good friend and got a great band. Folks, y'all check them out, Sideline. And Steve Dilling's one of the best banjo players, singers, and wonderful MCs you'll ever see on stage.
And to come out of Carolina.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate it. This Crystal, Jason calls me Crystal because he says my voice is crystal clear.
That's right. Love it.
But I appreciate it. I thank y'all for having me on the show. And I know people are enjoying these Carolina sessions. And good luck with that. And maybe we can do it again someday.
That sounds good. We'll see you down the trail sometime, man.
You guys take care. Love y'all.
You too, man.
Love you.
All right. Bye-bye.
North Carolina has always had a rich musical heritage, and we're proud to be a part of such a great treasure.
Join Brooke and I as we talk to some of our favorite musicians, some good friends from our home state of North Carolina. Hear their story and see how bluegrass music has shaped their lives and their career.